All right, you may proceed, counsel.
Yes, Your Honor. Please introduce yourself to the court, spelling your last name for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Officer Dale Williams. That's Williams.
Mr. Williams, what do you do for a living?
I am the Senior Patrol Officer with the Midland State Police Department.
What education and background qualifies you to hold that position?
I'm proud to say that I graduated with a degree in criminal justice from Sawyer College. I then successfully completed the 16-week course at the Midlands Law Enforcement Academy.
Officer Williams, how are you involved in today's case?
I was the first responder to the Parks home at 21 Maple. I was on duty that morning.
I would like to explain to the jury a little bit further what happened. Can you please tell them what happened when you arrived on the scene?
I arrived at the Parks home at approximately 9:55 a.m., the same time as the paramedics. I ordered the paramedics to remain outside and then drew my weapon and entered the home.
Upon entering the home, what did you find?
Well, I found myself in the living room, and this is where I spotted the two juveniles. One was lying on the floor with a gunshot wound to the head, whom I later ascertained to be Sidney Park. The other, Jesse Duran, was sitting in a chair with just a blank look on his face.
You mentioned a gunshot. Did you happen to find a firearm laying around?
Yes, there was. There was a 9mm revolver lying on the ground at Jesse's feet.
Upon finding the revolver, how did you proceed with your investigation?
Well, at this point, I asked Jessie if there was anybody else in the house. Jessie did not answer my question, so I ordered her to remain where she was seated. I then checked the rest of the house. Upon finding it empty, I gave the paramedics the all clear. They came in and went to work trying to resuscitate Sidney Park. Unfortunately, they were not successful.
Where was Jesse at this time?
At this time, I thought it prudent to remove the child from the living room while the paramedics were doing their work. So I placed her in the dining room under the watch of two officers. I gave these officers very explicit instructions not to ask Jesse any questions regarding the case, as Jesse's parent had not arrived yet.
Where was Miss Parks at the time?
At this time, Miss Park was en route. I had given her a call after I received the dispatch. She arrived at approximately 10 a.m., and at this point, I was forced to inform her that her child had passed away.
Had Hayden Duran arrived on the scene yet?
No. About a half an hour later, Miss Duran arrived, and at this point, I was forced to inform her that we were holding her child in suspicion of the death of Sidney Park.
Why was Jesse Duran a suspect in today's case?
Well, as we had ascertained that there was nobody else in the home at the time of the shooting, and Sidney Park was deceased, that left Jesse as the only logical suspect. Also, Jesse had written a confession at this time.
We'll come back to the confession, but is there any other evidence that you collected in today's case involving Hayden?
Yes, along with the confession, I photographed the file cabinet where the Parks stored the combination to their safe. I also interviewed Mrs. Park.
I want to break down the evidence one at a time. What did you discover from interviewing Miss Amy Park?
I discovered that the revolver did
Objection
indeed...
here, sir.
Your Honor, I'm not trying to elicit any statements from this witness. I simply asked if what he discovered upon interviewing Miss Park.
Reply.
Your Honor, this question simply states that, or elicits a response of hearsay. I just asked that the question be rephrased, so hearsay is not elicited.
Again, Your Honor, I did not try to elicit any statement. I simply asked what he discovered from interviewing Miss Park.
I'm going to overrule the objection. The officer can testify as to what he saw, heard, observed at the alleged scene. You may proceed, counsel.
Officer, what did you discover after talking to Miss Park?
In the course of my interview with Miss Park, I was able to deduce that the gun belonged to the Parks and that it was a model 9mm manufactured by Baker & Company. This is known to be a very reliable handgun manufacturer, and it was stored in a combination safe, Gallucci, also known for its reliability.
You mentioned...
Objection, lack of foundation.
Response?
Your Honor, may I ask this lack of foundation to what?
Lack of foundation as to the safe and the gun. There really is no evidence or foundation has been laid to how the witness is able to identify what kind of gun or what kind of safe were in the household. It's just that he is an officer. That doesn't mean that he's ran into these guns or safes any other place.
I'm going to overrule the objection. The officer's trained at investigating, trained at identifying. He's trained powers of observation. He testified that the make and model of the handgun, and he can also observe and testify as to what the make and model of the safe was. You may proceed, Counsel.
You mentioned Bellucci's safe. Did the safe have a combination?
Yes, the safe had a 6-digit combination, which the Parks stored in the file cabinet of the guest bedroom.
The filing cabinet, can you describe that to the members of the jury?
Yes, it was just a standard file cabinet, part of a standard desk, rather innocuous. Inside were various papers and folders, looked to be financial documents, credit card statements, bank statements. And in one of the folders marked for emergencies only was an unmarked piece of paper that had the combination written on it.
You mentioned a confession earlier today. Would you recognize the confession if I showed it to you here in court?
Yes, I would.
Permission to approach the witness with safes one.
You may.
Officer, what did I just hand you?
This is the combination written by Jesse Duran the morning of August 18th, 2010.
Is it a fair and accurate copy of the confession you saw that morning?
Yes, it is.
Under what circumstances, to your knowledge, was the confession written?
This confession was unsolicited. It was written by Jesse Duran while seated at the dining room table with the 2 officers.
And what did you discover upon reading the confession?
After reading this confession, we deduced that Jesse Duran had knowledge of the gun in the home prior to August 18, 2010. The reason for her visit that day was to play with it, and that she was holding the gun when it discharged and fatally killed Sidney Park.
Your Honor, I have no further questions. Permission to retrieve evidence?
You may. Cross-examination, Ms. Naylor.
Yes, Your Honor.